And welcome to 22 Breakdown. Here we go again. This is part 2 of the creation story, or a precursor to the last 6,000 years. I'm sorry. This is a breakdown to understand a video that I put out about the creation story. Is it a lie? Well, or is the last 6,000 years a lie? Okay. In that video, it states that the first 6 days of creation is actually equivalent to from Adam and Eve to now. And this is to drop a little more understanding. In that video, it would show that the creation story, day 1, is really talking about the fall of man. Now, I understand that we are taught that it's telling us about a firmament and all this other stuff and how the stars came about and all this and that, but this is what I'm really going to break down to you so you can go and see this with yourself. It's talking about the downfall of man, and when the man had, and the man and the woman had their downfall, of course, sex was involved. There was children involved. The children that was involved was Cain and Abel. Now, Cain killed Abel, correct. And also, God always seen Cain as just, he didn't like Cain for whatever reason. But he always thought Abel was pleasant. He liked the burnt flesh of animals over vegetables, fruit, and whatever. I don't get this, but hey, it's your belief, it's your belief. Now, if we look at Cain killing Abel as good or bad, or good and evil, well, we also can see good as and evil as light and dark. Like people say the dark side is evil and go to the light, and light is good. You feel me? But that's also the same as saying light can also be day and dark can be night. So when the first day is illustrating separating the sun, well, not the sun, but light from darkness, that it's illustrating Cain and Abel. And then them being named day and night, that's being night and day. As Cain being night, Abel being day. The exact same thing as far as if you look up the time of the flood of Noah, it would be 1656. That would be considered the second 1,000 years, which would be the second millennium. A millennium is 1,000 years. And as 2 Peter 3:8 says, one day equals 1,000 years on earth, one day with God. So what it's trying to tell you is, subliminally, that one day, day 1 is Adam and Eve and their story. Day 2, what did God say? He said he's going to build a vault. And a vault is also an ark or arch. That's why when you go in houses, they have vaulted ceilings. AKA, that can also be an ark. So when he says he's going to build a vault that separate the waters from above and below, that's pretty much the exact same thing that happened in the second millennium, year 1656, when Noah built an ark that separated the rain waters that's coming from above and the flood that it caused from the rain that was below the ark, separating the waters from above and below. Now, to go in a little bit deeper, that I did not do on the video, and of course that's the purpose of this, well, numbers that tie in with Noah is 600 due to the fact that he landed the ark at age 600. It rained 40 days and 40 nights. And of course, he was in the second millennium. Reason being, let's start with 40 days and 40 nights. 40 days and 40 nights represents Christ that comes in the fourth millennium, which would be, if this is 6,000 year, 2,000 years ago, when supposed Christ, that would be the 4,000 millennium, correct? You with me? So 40 represents really 4,000 year. Understand this. The Bible has numerology written all through it. In fact, I have another video that's coming out that's going to explain a little bit of that. But the Bible has numerology, and in the form of numerology, zeros doesn't exist. So if you say 7, it can mean 70, 700, 7,000, all the way up to whatever. But it can also just mean 7. So 40 days actually means the fourth day, which we're going to get to that in a minute, or the 4,000 year that Christ was here. 600 represents the 6,000 year, which is now, because we are now in the time of Noah, right now. It represents Christ is supposed to come during the time, because remember, somebody got to let this man out to run around for 1,000 years. The second millennium of Noah being here represents the second coming of Christ. See, all that ties in with really Christ, because Noah and Jesus is actually the same deity. It's the same person, the same entity. Let me explain. What did Noah do? He gathered all the animals from around the land. This is explained in the video that I put out. The animals represent all the people from around the world. He put them in the ark. The ark is symbolic for heaven. As the ark has window, heaven has window. Sealed by God, heaven, sealed by God. 3 levels of the ark, 3 levels in heaven. You feel me? Is y'all with me? So Noah raised, he rised up above the ocean waves. When there's fire, Jesus is gonna rise you above the flames, waves. It's the same story, 100%. And we're gonna connect that a little better even a little later. So now you understand why Noah was in the second millennium, because the 2 represents the second coming of Christ. The 40 represents the fourth day, aka the 4,000 year. And 600, when Noah landed, represents the 6,000 year. Now, in day 3 of the creation story, God separated the waters and brought forth dry land. Now, if you look and find when was the separation of the Red Sea, you'll find that was 1250 BC. Now, so this you don't calculate from Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve would be 4,000 year coming up to the time of Christ. Then the years turned and started counting up to now we're in the 2,000 year. That's where you get 4 plus 2 is the 6,000 year, correct? So now if you count back from Christ, because it says 1250 before coming era, which is before Christ, that would be just the next millennium before that, which would be not 0 through 1,000, but 1,000 through 2,000, which 1250 fits between 1,000 and 2,000, which now makes that the third millennium coming from Adam and Eve. It would be right after Noah. I hope you guys is following. So, and the third day represents Christ being on the cross for 3 days. That's what that represents. And that's why Christ was stabbed in his side, representing splitting the Red Sea. Think your body is 75, maybe 80% water. And if you stab yourself, it turns to red. That's the Red Sea. That's symbolic for that. The whole thing about Christ on the cross and all that is symbolic, people. And back to Moses, being on the third day. The third day says, separate the waters and bring forth dry land. Did Moses not separate water and bring forth dry land? Did he not raise his rod to... And think about it now, when his hands was in the air, it was like Jesus hanging on the cross, because of Moses also is a representation of the same story of Christ. Instead of him having his rod over his head, that's really him hanging on the cross. Just like Samson, when he has his hands up, wrapped around the two pillars. The two pillars represent the two thieves. When Moses split the water, and there was water on both sides, the water on each side represents the two thieves. Jesus, when he had his hands up the exact same way as Samson and Moses, what was on the side of Jesus? Two thieves, one on each side. So that's the same representation. Now, to move on to day 4, you got to understand 325 AD, when Emperor Constantine, the whole story with the Council of Nicaea, when he took the word S-U-N and made it become S-O-N. This is why you guys go to church on Sunday, even though now people think it's okay to go to church on Saturn Day, which is Satan's day. Man, talking about being confused all the way around. But Jesus, at one time, was the sun, but now you know it as pagan beliefs. But it says, I made the sun, the moon, and the stars on the 4th day. Now, being that, how did you make day 1, 2, and 3 without the sun and the moon? What does the word day really mean? That's a whole different topic. But he said he made the sun, the moon, and the stars on the 4th day, even though he already made 3 days. We make our days determined by the sun and the moon. Correct? Okay. That's a whole different topic. Like I say, start pressing your questions. Put them out there. Sun, Jesus. Moon, John the Baptist. Stars, people blessed by Jesus. The exact same thing that stars are today. People that most people see as being blessed because they're in Hollywood and they got money or whatever, and that people idolize that. Okay. Noah and all these other ones, Moses, they wasn't really blessing people. That's why it wasn't no stars then. This is somebody that was touched by an angel. Jesus Christos. And John the Baptist would be the moon. Because he's the light, but he's not the shining light. He's the lesser light. Remember the other John wrote about John the Baptist, he says he's the light. But he's not the light, but he come to bear witness to that light. Don't forget that verse. Or I can tiptoe and tap dance all through this. All languages. But there's no need to. So, day 4 represents, and let me get a little bit more on that. Remember I said take the zeros away? Think about it. I say Samson is the same as Jesus. Well, it took Samson, 40 years? See, representing the 4th year or the year 4000. Solomon, same thing, is the sun. Sol means sun in Latin. In Greek, Hindu, means sun. On Hebrew, sun. Sun, sun, sun. That's what Solomon means. What's Solomon famous for, other than being rich? His temple. And what did they do at the temple? sacrifice what? Lambs. And who else is the lamb? Jesus. Correct? Okay, Solomon's temple was 4,000 cubic cubits. Represent again, Jesus. Represent the same thing. So Solomon also, aka the son, also is a representation of Jesus. I didn't even put him in there earlier, but Solomon also is Jesus. The true light. He light up every man on earth. You understand that? Now, it's plain and simple, flat out. God view of the Bible God, Holy Bible God views you as a dead, mortal soul entity, whatever you want to call it. He views you as dead if you are within sin. Now remember, the first sin was day one, Adam and Eve. The sin was never corrected until the sun, moon, and the stars, the fourth millennium, aka Jesus Christ. Remember Christ, crystal. Christ means something shining, star, bling, bling. Remember. So technically, from day 1 to day 4, aka millennium 1 to millennium 4000, the fourth millennium, year 4000, I should say, make sure I get this clarified. That's all considered sin because nobody never corrected that, right? The correction happened in the fourth millennium. Now, if God can view you as sin, as being the same as being dead, what do dead people do? Not do. Breathe. Dead people do not breathe. Period. Show me a dead person that breathes. So, if Jesus died for your sins on the fourth day, that means the fifth day and the sixth day, you should be able to breathe now because you're now alive. Technically, if you're still following what I'm saying. And if you go back and look and see on the fifth day of creation, what happened? The exact same thing that happened on the sixth day, just in a different sense. On the fifth day, animals and all this, everything that flies and everything that creepeth up on the earth. In other words, things that breathe. And the same thing happened on the sixth day. Man and woman. Blow the air into the nostrils. Things that breathe. You feel me? So hopefully this is a very good clarity of understanding. Day 5 and 6 was pretty much the Holy Spirit, the Great Tribulation. And of course 7 is going to end up being the major last, the return.